I'm done with this. You know, I was used to do this thing where I'd sit down, I'd get myself all ready, and then I'd start talking. Then I'd edit the beginning of the video out. So I just start off with like, I'm over it, man. I'm over it. Nothing but water. Wrist check. This is a Ratio 500-meter diver that was sent to me by, I mean, the only real patron I think the channel has. There's a couple of you. Actually, don't go anywhere. Totally unprofessional. This is our boy, Cliff. You guys might remember there was a guy, Cliff, down in Florida that sent me a whole care package for the van. And I hope you're watching, Cliff. One of the things he sent me in this package of parts for the Astro van was a sticker that said, no road, no problem, but I had it on the black glass, and some of those stickers don't hold up so well to the sun just beating on it. So it peeled. He sent me this in the mail. I got it yesterday. Problem is, it's black. I can only put it on the white paint somewhere. I don't know that I want to do that, so it's probably going to end up going somewhere else. But, Cliff, if you have the ability to make this, make it in the white lettering. I'll put it on the black glass. We'll see how long that lasts. But, yeah, Jim sent me this Ratio watch here. I don't think I've done a video on it yet, but it's a pretty cool, heavy-duty. It's a quartz, but it's no joke. All right, we got that out of the way. This is not a political channel. I've done some of that in the past before I had all the subscribers I have now, and those videos don't have a lot of views. I don't really toe the line for either political party. I'm just a realist, I feel like. I feel like if you're here, you listen to me enough, you know I'm a common sense kind of guy, right? So, that's it. You know, like if it comes to Trump, you know, it's not that I like him because I'm a Republican or something, or I'm believe all the nonsense that the left tries to associate him with. It's because I felt like he was a common sense kind of guy. I like the policies that he had in place because the things were running better when he was president. Just don't care what you can't argue with that. Take it down the line, pick any metric, by any metric, things were better when he was president. Other than craziness that was created due to media, which is owned and operated by the far left. I don't dislike Democrats or hate Democrats or anything. They're my friends and family members and clients. Many of them now have woken up to this nonsense. And so with that, I'm just going to say that it's been a crazy week, especially the last few days. I've been watching a lot of interesting stuff. And I'm kind of putting it all together. This is what I do. I've got a video on... I know it's out there, but I took all these UFO pictures back in 2008. I didn't know I was taking UFO pictures. I was just taking pictures of the sky, and these UFOs were in the pictures. You couldn't see it with the naked eye. And when I opened those pictures up, when I saw the first one and I cropped it, not knowing I had over 40 images of it at that point. I just opened the first one and I saw it and I cropped it. I didn't leave the house for 4 days because I was working it out of my mind. Because I understand what parallax is and all kinds of the other issues it could be. And it wasn't. It was clearly an object in the sky with lights around it, radiating light off of it into the space around it. And then that turned a gear in my brain where I put together this idea of our souls and when we die and where we go and all these things. It's not what I want to talk about right now, but prior to that, I've been open to the idea of ancient civilizations, and I'd watched Ancient Aliens and read a lot of different things, and I've read a lot of old texts. And the problem for me with reading all that information is I don't have great recall. And a lot of it is very difficult to read. Like, read the 12th Planet. That's a hard thing to wrap your mind around. I think mainly because it's so abstract, and you're hearing these names of these beings for the first time. So, and it's hard to remember what their place is in order of the story and their relationships with one another. So it's just so crazy. It's so out there that I think it's one of those things you have to read multiple times. And I haven't done that. So jump to the last several days, and I got the new computer, so I'm enjoying that. and I'm back on the YouTube. I watched a good movie on there. I couldn't watch movies for a little while. I caught a couple podcasts, and one was with this Andrew Schultz guy and Bill Carson. You've probably seen Bill Carson around. He's made his rounds on all the podcasts. He's an amazing guy. He's very knowledgeable, but it's his ability to recall which makes him so good at what he does. Now, his story is pretty crazy. He's had UFO and alien experiences going all the way back to being a boy. And he was on a path in life that got derailed, and it seemed like everything was going terrible. But then events took place and catapulted him into studying these things that led to all these other discoveries and knowledge, to where now he's able to relate this to the masses. I see this as the beginning of an awakening, because he's not the only guy that's doing it. Yesterday, I spent 3 hours watching the Joe Rogan podcast with Terrence Howard. Who knew, huh? Who knew? Like, that guy went through some real crap. You guys know who he is. He's an actor. My favorite role he's ever played that I can recall, my recall isn't the greatest, was in Dead Presidents. He played a pimp, and boy, was he a real asshole. No. I'm thinking of the other guy that played the pimp, but he still played an asshole in that. He was great. He was really good. I guess he has a whole career playing bad guys. Which is funny, because when you look at him, he's like this beautiful human being with like green eyes. He's a half black guy. So it's funny that he always plays bad guys. But who knew that he's a genius, mathematical wizard who has, I think he said he has over 90 patents. He's invented all sorts of things. And he has these theories on things, and he's proven these things. He's made these things in the third dimension. And if you watch that podcast, Rogan hardly speaks at all for 3 hours. It's wild. And so I notice the lens is dirty, but I'm not going to stop this to fix it. I hope we're going to be okay. I don't want to lose my train of thought here. So I watched that, and I'm thinking, okay, and I'm putting all this stuff together. And then I caught some political stuff over the last few days. I don't know if you guys are paying attention to what's going on in Congress here, but it's nuts. And it's just, we're just in this such a crazy place. But is it Marjorie Taylor Greene? Is that her name? The blonde lady, the Republican woman? So there was this fight between her and AOC and this other woman. I don't know who she is. I never seen her before. It's a black lady, a pretty lady. Not that it matters. But Marjorie Taylor Greene made a comment about her wearing fake eyelashes, and then everything just devolved. And this is our government. Like, they're in a real setting here where they're talking about how the country's being run and whatnot. And these three women in government, they get into this cat fight, basically. I mean, AOC and that other woman went full on hood rat, man. It was ridiculous. And the men in the room are like, they don't know what to do. But not one guy, his eyes would have hit the guy, boom, boom, boom. Ladies, let's just shut up. Stifle. I go full on Archie Bumper. Stifle yourselves, ladies. Have some decorum here. The fact that it's so crazy. It's just so somebody says something that insults you, then you should never retaliate. You certainly should not retaliate when you're on camera. And when you're you're doing a job. It's a political job. You're supposed to be an evolved human being. Whatever happened to sticks and stones may break my bones, but words shall never harm me. When I was a child, we used to say that to each other. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That's what you'd say. I'm rubber, you're glue. Everything you say to me bounces back and sticks to you, When you're pointing your finger, the rest of them are pointing back at you. All these things, we used to actually say them to one another. I have a friend, you guys have seen her in the videos here, Corinne. She's in Canada. She's got 3 master's degrees. She speaks 3 languages. She's in education. She's a private school science teacher. but she did work for at least a year in the public school sector as a principal, vice principal. And listening to her talk about that, Corinne, if you're watching this, you got to write that down. You still have to write down the comparisons between your experiences with the private sector schooling and the public school. You got to get that out there. Corinne's been published already. She did her thesis on the immigration problems in Canada. This was like 25 years ago or something. So, but I bring her up because when this discussion comes up, she will say to other women, she doesn't believe women should even be, she doesn't think that there should be a woman president for sure. And the reason for it is what you saw in Congress with these women. That's why, you know. Sorry, women, don't mean to insult you, but you know what I'm saying. You're not all like that, but you can be, and that happens. I mean, I worked in the nightclub business for years as a bouncer. I did everything. I became a bartender and a DJ, but I started off working the door and becoming a floor guy and a bouncer. And I'm not a big guy to do that job, and I've already told a bunch of stories here. Some of them are pretty entertaining of those experiences. But I could tell you something. What I saw every night was whenever there was some sort of fight that broke out, it was because of women. That's usually how it starts. And then, you know, some drunk guy has to get involved and boom, you know, it's a problem. And the other thing that's come up is, I forgot to look at my watch. I looked at it to talk about it, but I didn't see what time we started here. The other thing that is, you know, whatever, is the whole Trump thing with this court case, because it's fallen apart. I predicted it would fall apart. I knew it would, because I watched what happened over the last 8 years. It's like nobody remembers. When I hear people like Robert De Niro and other pseudo-celebrities and trying to scare people into like, what's going to happen if Trump becomes president? It's going to be the end of this and the end of that. And He already was president, and everything was great when he was president. Again, other than what the media tried to convince you of, which was bullshit. We know it was all bullshit. None of it was real. All of it was fake. It all fell apart. The fact that they tried to bring this case again, as soon as it happened, I just said to myself, I am not going to follow this. Way back before Trump was president, back in the 2000s, I became somewhat of a political wonk. So that's the term. I was paying attention to everything. I was watching everything. I was reading everything I can get my hands on. It started before that with educating myself on, you know, the world, somewhat global politics, you know, some political science stuff. That was one of my best courses in school. But also the real history of this country, understanding that this is not a democracy. Every time you hear somebody say, we're a democracy, that's not the truth. Democracy is mob rule. We're a constitutional republic, and we use the democratic method. But even with the democratic method for voting, there's a whole bunch of checks and balances to try to do the best job we can to make sure that right is still being done. There's still mistakes that get made, but there's going to be a hell of a lot more mistakes being made if the people in these positions of authority are just political appointees through cronyism and paybacks, but they don't have the intelligence to do the job that they're supposed to be doing. And I'm seeing this. I'm watching these hearings, and I'm watching these people get grilled, and they're morons, and they're deflecting, and they get away with it. And it's just, it's aggravating. That's why I don't watch it anymore. But I had to pay attention to this because I was curious about this Michael Cohen guy. The fact that I'd seen him on, I think he's a paid guy on CNN or maybe MSNBC, maybe both, probably every left-leaning news station there is. The fact that they've been paying him to be some sort of commentator for the last few years is insane, because he's a perjurer. He's a known liar, proven liar, period. And he was their star witness in this case. So knowing that from the beginning, you know it's bullshit. Can't go anywhere. And then I caught a snippet of some show. I don't watch Fox anymore. I don't watch any of it. I watched Gutfeld on Fox. I recommend you do the same thing. It's a very funny show. It's on 5 nights a week. Go ahead and DVR it. You'll chuckle, because they go after everybody. All right. But I think it was Life, Liberty, Levin this guy Levin on Fox. I don't watch the show because it bores me. It's good information. If you want to know what's going on, when he has a guest on, he really gets to it, and he's an attorney and smart guy. I think he's killing himself with all this. I looked at his face last night on television, and he had these big dark circles, not just under his eyes, but over the tops of his eyes, and he doesn't look healthy. And you could tell that, and this is the reason I stopped paying attention to all this, but you could tell that his job is killing him. You could see it. I feel that way about my friend Sabo too sometimes, because, I mean, he's an artist, but he's a political artist. And he has to pay so much attention to all this. He gets so ramped up and aggravated about it. You're living in a world of shit. And that's how you're making a living. It's not healthy. But I understand it. And if it's coming from a place where you want to help people, that's noble. But you're shortening your lifespan. And between now and the time you die, you're going to make everything worse with your health because you let it get that serious into your mind. You have to separate that at some point. That's what I'm trying to do here. But back to this court thing. So he had a guy on. The gist of it was that guy was an attorney, and I think he was either Michael Cohen's attorney or an advisor to him. And they spoke before this court case went, and he knew he was lying. And he went to Bragg, Alvin Bragg, I think the guy's name is, the head prosecutor in New York City, the DA there, and all his prosecutors. He said, "This guy's a liar. I can prove to you that he's lying. You can't." They didn't care. They didn't want to hear it. They put him on anyhow, which means they purposefully put a guy on that they knew was going to lie. Which means from the beginning of that trial to where we are now, they knew the whole time that that was going to be the end result. What's that about, man? Right? That's about trying to put all these negative things out there with Trump, which in the end only helped Trump. It's only helping him. It's crazy to me. The whole thing is insane. I want to get back to a place where, which I think Trump could do it. Look, and I don't think Trump's a god or anything like that. He's a human being just like you and me. Well, most of us. Let's face it. There's definitely some aliens here. Definitely something going on here. But this economy right now, I did a short this morning on the inflation because we're at like $6 a gallon or higher, like $6.50 in some places here in LA right now. I paid $7 for a little bag of beans today, like string beans, for my stew that I make every week. The cost of living is insane, and I don't know how you all are doing it, especially if you have a family and all that. There's no denying the fact that inflation is through the roof. And I mentioned it, and a bunch of people made comments right off the bat. There's like 50 views of the whole video. And a bunch of comments came in, and a lot of you were working 2 jobs to make ends meet. It wasn't like that 4 years ago. When Trump came in, prices on everything actually went down. He brought manufacturing back here. He worked all these deals. He created tariffs with the guys that are a pain in the ass, like China. Went over and sorted out North Korea. Went over and talked to China. When you hear somebody like Maxine Waters say, Trump is in love with these people and he loves them, he said all these positive things. Yeah, because that's what you do. You don't antagonize somebody that could potentially be your enemy. Right? Somebody you could potentially go to war with. You don't antagonize them. You moron. You stupid idiot. You don't do that. You say nice things. That's what you do. It's a psychological thing. You got to make people feel good. You make somebody feel good. You make them smile. You make them laugh. You make them feel like you treat them like a human being. Then you can find a mutual place there of understanding, and you can negotiate. You can't negotiate with somebody that you said horrible shit about. How are you supposed to get in a room with somebody that you're saying you're a killer? Okay, it's fine that the historical record may be accurate on that fact, but you still have to deal with that person. And that's all Trump was doing with those people. Say some nice things about them, make them feel okay. They can show it to their people saying, see, okay. But keep in mind, everything that we think about these people now, we're riding these guys, whether it's Vladimir Putin, which a lot of bad things have happened under his rule, there's no doubt about it. or Kim Jong Un or Il, whichever one. I get them all mixed up, or whoever the hell's whoever the hell's running China right now. They're riding the coattails of communism from the distant past that killed millions of people. What, 200 million people or something? I think communism killed something like 200 million people in the 20th century. So, but they didn't do it personally. You know what I mean? They're still oppressing their people to a certain extent, more so in some cases, less so in others. But vilifying them and putting all this stuff out there, some of which, a lot of bad things get attributed to them that they didn't personally do. People under them may have done. Some people under them may have done it because they thought it was the right thing to do. Some of them were probably ordered to do it. We may never know the whole truth of all that. The point is, we have to be careful with this propaganda thing that we do with making the other side look like villains and evil and all that stuff all the time. That makes it so you can never talk to them or negotiate with them. You have to kill them. We have to go to war with them. So that's the end result of that sort of thinking. You can't continue to do that. You got to slow that shit down. You've got to play the psychological game with them. Make somebody feel good. Make them feel like they're a human being. Then you can get in a room with them and you can negotiate things. And that's what Trump did. All right. And this whole thing, I don't understand it. Of this thought process like that he's not one of the people. Trump's more one of the people than most of these people in government that just came from well-to-do families, went to college, got into government early, and we can't get rid of them. Like the current president, 50-something years in public office. He's a fool. He's a liar. He's a what's the word? Plagiarist. The guy's horrible. All right. There's this whole investigation going on to millions of dollars that he took from all these people while he was vice president. This whole thing with his son, everything. It's all real. It's not fake stuff. It's real stuff. Trump was a businessman building buildings in New York City and in New Jersey, of course, all around the world, but starting out, that's where he started. Those areas have not been run by Republicans, not in my lifetime. So, and I don't know if you know how it works. I don't know if you've ever built anything. And I'm not talking about a tree fort or a shed in your backyard or some shitty IKEA furniture in your living room. I'm talking about like building a house. Just anybody's built a house or knows somebody's built a house, what you got to go through to make that happen, that process. Now imagine doing that on a super grand scale. Millions of dollars, $1 billion, however much it costs these days. Numbers don't mean anything anymore. But the things that you got to do. I worked on a brownstone in New York City in the late 90s with this guy I met on the beach. And he thought I was just talking. And I thought he was just talking. And I said, hey, man, I could use a little extra money. I was on, at that time, I had blown my ankle out on a film called Restoration. Robert Downey Jr., Sam Neill, Meg Ryan. I did the reshoots, so my name's not in the credits. But I got pictures of everything I did, and everything I did is in the film. I had to make these breakaway boards that Robert Downey Jr. breaks through to get to these people that were quarantined. And I made this horse stall that Meg Ryan sits in, and they did these close-ups. I spent a week making coffins. I have one of them, a baby coffin, which is just a box with a cross on it. It's right here in the closet. Why did I bring that up? I was going to brag about myself here for a minute. Oh, I blew my ankle out on that show. And wow, I totally lost my train of thought there. Trump with business. Oh, I was going home in the summers. That's what it was. I was on disability. I couldn't work. I had 3 ankle scopes and eventually ligament reconstruction. So in between those surgeries, I would try to do things to bring in some extra money. And then for several summers in a row, I went home. And I still don't know why I was going to get into that. So I apologize. I don't write any of this down. I'm unscripted. And when I look away, by the way, I'm not reading a card or something. I'm trying to like read a screen in my brain. I'm trying to find the little tool or the memory that'll trigger what I want to say next. So some of you know that already. For those of you that don't, when people do that, that's what they're doing. They're trying. That's how I'm trying to recall. But oh right, working up in New York City. Oh, I got it. I'm back. I'm back. The guy I met on the beach. So I was home for a summer. I met this guy on the beach. That's why I was home for the summer, and I wanted to make a few extra bucks. And at the time, I was well enough to where I could kind of work. I was supposed to be taking it easy, and I wasn't, because it was like 3 or 4 floors up, and it was a walk up. And I helped him gut this brownstone and carry all the trash down. But before we did that, we had to get a garbage container, like a dumpster. It was one of those short dumpsters. So we had to go talk to the mob, man. You know, we had to walk down to the river. These 2 big fat guys wearing suits in like an office space with windows that looked out onto the street down there in a Bowery somewhere, and smoking cigars, just hanging out. It didn't even look like a real business. It looked like stepping back into a film noir film from 1950. That's what the desks were. That's what the file cabinets were. And there was dust, like nothing's touched. These guys, you go in there, it looks like a business. They just hang out and arrange shit. Who knows how it happens, but they make it happen. And we ended up with a dumpster in front of this building. So that's what you got to go through. I'll just briefly tell you a quick story about that, because the guy I was working with, I'm sure I told this before, but he was an interesting character. Good-looking guy. Looked like Mel Gibson, but he had this scar going across his face. Heavy New York accent. Kind of an artist genius in a way, but very, like, I actually see myself somewhat like him, but I know that I'm not that bad, for lack of a better term. Very much like one of the Bowery Boys, one of the Dead End Kids. Like I oftentimes compare myself to the Palooka thing. That guy was a Palooka, you know, and he was addicted to Percocets. Wore this gold chain, heavy New York accent, and he had this habit where when we would go downstairs, we made an arrangement with the restaurant across the street, which was in a lower level, so it's under the sidewalk level. If you've been to New York City, there's a lot of places like that, where we got free dinner every night if they were allowed to put stuff in the dumpster. So he would check the dumpster to make sure it was just our trash or their trash. If he saw something he didn't recognize, like a bag, he'd open it up. He did this. I watched him do it. He opened up the bag, saw the address, grabbed the bag, walked down the street. It's a lobby of a building, kicks the door open, throws it into the lobby, yells at whoever's standing around. Said, "That is not for your trash. You know, that's our trash." That's how he enforced it. But the point of the story is, if we had to go through those people just to, you know, take trash out of a brownstone in the Village, imagine what you got to go through to build a giant skyscraper in New York City, or build casinos in Atlantic City. The people you got to deal with. More importantly, the politicians you got to deal with. All the stuff you got to go through. And he greased all those people. And he would make arrangements. He'd make deals. He said, "No, I'm not going to pay any taxes for 10 years. And they would say okay to that, because he'd point out to them how much revenue they were going to make. On top of the fact that he was definitely giving them money or setting them up with certain deals so they can make money. And those were all Democrats. He knows where all the bodies are buried, so to speak. Right? He knew what he was dealing with. That's why he was the best guy to get the job in the first place. Because he knew. He knew. He knows how this system works. But he cared. And so, I'm just saying, the way that he dealt with these foreign nationals, the way he got manufacturing back, the way that he got rid of regulations. For every new regulation, he got rid of at least 2, if not more. What he did for the VA, what he did, he got the VA working again. He made it so you have the right to go to a private doctor and the VA would cover it. He did the right to try thing, got that thing going. I'm just saying, I could go on and on and on. I'm not trying to make it sound like he's a god. I'm not saying that. But he got more shit done in 2 years than any president in my lifetime got accomplished in 8 years. That's what I saw with my own eyes. At the same time I saw that, I also saw the left attacking him the whole time. Now, how does this tie in with Billy Carson and Joe Rogan and Terrence Howard and these things I've been watching? Well, these guys are talking about... Carson says this thing. He gets attacked a lot. While his recall is pretty friggin' good and admirable, and I respect the hell out of it, he has so much information in his head that he's going to misspeak once in a while. So it's like with Trump, the attack always was, they always try to take him literal, but they didn't take him seriously. They should have been taking him seriously, but not literal, because he was having fun. And he's a human being, and he goes off script. It's off the cuff, just like I do. I misspeak in every video. I say the wrong thing. Doesn't mean anything. Most of the time, you can extrapolate what I meant. And you don't have to attack me for it. But with him, they're going to attack him for it. Same thing with this guy, Bill Carson, because I think I caught him misspeaking a few times here. Like, he does say this one thing, whether it's true or not, because it's an exact number he threw out there. He said 100 families run the world. Now, is it exactly 100 families? Probably not. Probably not. But the concept is important. So saying 100 families run the world, what the benefit of saying that, the positive part of it is, that makes you think, oh shit, it's like 535 people run this country. That is true. That is accurate, right? Same concept. And I liked how he went, like, with the Rothschilds. He told you where the name even came from. And this goes to the book I told you about a while ago, Our Occulted History by Jim Marrs. I recommended you guys read that. Fantastic book. The thrust that I remember, that I can recall, and that book's about 40 pages of reference material, historical reference material, science-based. And the gist of that is that if you go to the earliest hieroglyphs we know about, the earliest time in Egypt, and you just look at the pictures, you see giant humans working alongside normal-sized humans, and some of them are blue, and some of them have elongated heads, and all of it. And it's pictured for you right there. And his thing is saying, what he's proven in that book is that when they left, the people that they left in charge, basically, ended up running everything, convincing all the other people around them that they themselves are gods, and that the people running the world today can trace their bloodlines all the way back to those people. That's what's going on. So that's fascinating. Now, in my own mind, and keep in mind, by the way, I watched an old, Barney Miller was great. If you guys remember the TV show Barney Miller. I know I'm all over the place. I'm going to pull it all together. That show covered everything. They had gay characters, they had trans characters, they had, all the races on there. They had everything. And it was just real. It was so real. That's such a great show. They had an episode where this guy came in and he was talking about the Trilateral Commission. He might have mentioned the Bilderberg Group too. But you got the Rothschilds, the Bilderberg Group, the Trilateral Commission. Today, the Trilateral Commission would be like the World Economic Forum. It's the same people. They're the ones running everything, right? Well, these people that are in these three groups, if you tie it all together, they own all the media on the entire planet. And the Rothschilds, they run all the banking worldwide. The way I look at it, when I listen to these guys talk, and I know what the old stories are, although I can't recall it all, but Bill Carson's a great guy to listen to if you want to know this. And don't get your feathers ruffled if you're religious. If you're a pure Christian or a Catholic or Protestant, I don't care. Or you're Jewish, none of this matters. The religions that we believe today, the Bible and all these books, are later. They're actually telling the same stories that are thousands of years older, that are in these more ancient texts. Same people, different names. It's the same stuff over and over again. It's really just a history of what happened. But it's gotten filtered. And this last version that we're working with here is more about controlling us than anything else. I'm fascinated by it, the whole thing. Like, I don't know that there's some evil thing, some big evil thing going on here. I understand that as humans, we want to do that, create that, like good and evil, good and bad. I think that, in my experience, life is 10% shit happens, 90% how you deal with it, right? You attribute good and bad to things. Some of the things, and both of these guys, Bill Carson, and I'm gesturing to the computer, and Terrence Howard, went through some really rough times where they thought it was the worst thing ever But because they went through that while they were in this mindset, something happened to them that catapulted them, projected them into where they are now. So sometimes what you perceive as a horrible thing that's happening to you right now turns out to be the best thing that could have happened to you. It's like AA, right? It's like you have to hit rock bottom before you can start bouncing back. We get into this thing that's been created for us that we didn't create it. You're born into a system now, this monetary system and everything else. As a little kid, I had a huge problem with it. I just remember being a little kid thinking to myself, why? Why do I have to do that? Why are we all doing this? Why are we listening to that? Why do we all have to believe the same thing? My mom, when I was about 8 or 9, she got me into catechism. I told this before. That only lasted a couple weekends. First of all, I didn't know how to navigate the book. So they would say, they give one of the books in the Bible, the page, and these kids are like, and I'd have somebody have to help me find it, and then we read it, and I'd be like, well, what does that mean? Okay. Well, how do you know that? That's okay. Well, I read that. That's not how I get. So basically, they called my mom in there one day, and right in front of me, they just said, "This is not for Michael," because I asked too many questions. You can't ask questions. If you ask questions, you're a bad guy. It's so crazy. So I think a way to look at it, and I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just where my brain is at the moment. It's not a hardcore belief. It's an idea. It's a thought. I think maybe this could be what's happening. Having that perspective allows you to change it as new information and new thoughts come into your mind down the road. And that only comes from more experience, right? And knowledge. I think maybe it's just that these people that are running the show here and have been doing so for 4,000 years now are just addicted to that. I think that's all it is. I don't know if they're doing it for any. They might believe that they're doing it for the gods, right? These beings from the other worlds that came here originally and created us, made us, and all of it. They might be doing it because they believe that's the right thing to do. So when these beings come back, they'll be rewarded or something, right? They're supposed to subjugate us and take advantage of us and manipulate us. Like they think that that's what they're supposed to do. Whether that's right or wrong. I mean, obviously you and I think that that's wrong. But if that's what they think, that's what they think. And they've got the power to do so. And it's a power that has been developed over all these years. 4,000 years at least. So that's just how I'm seeing it. And the problem that they had with Trump, right? All of it, the pandemic, everything was about taking him down because he was given truly power to the people again. That's what that was about. He was tearing down their power. When the U.S. is strong, when our economy is strong, when we're producing our own fuel and whatnot, it's better for everybody. But it's not so good for the people that have been running the show for so long, that want to keep control. The way Trump was setting things up, you had more control. And that's what America was supposed to be in the first place. I think, this gets pretty crazy. I know there's probably people rolling their eyes already, screaming at me. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Why are you listening to this guy? Whatever. I'm just saying. I feel like the way that, and it's not, we have to be careful when we look at the past through the way that we're conditioned to see things today, as far as the way people were treated by different people. And the first thing I'm always trying to get across to you guys is that Whitey is not necessarily just the devil. Everybody, every group of people of every color, everywhere on the planet have done horrible things to people that look just like them and the people who didn't look just like them. It's always been going on. It has nothing to do with race or the color of your skin or any of it. It's just, we see this, we need to have that, we need to take that to make these other things happen. There's people there already, we're going to have to deal with that. And in the past, you couldn't communicate with them, you weren't as sophisticated, everything else. You try your best. Like in Roanoke, the very beginning of, I know that before that, the Vikings were really on the East Coast. We know people came here from the other side. We know people crossed the land bridge. Really, there were sailing vessels going back probably tens of thousands of years ago, because there's just too much evidence of similarity on every continent. The story that we've been told isn't exactly true, but new evidence is coming out every day that supports this global activity, right? Going back tens of thousands of years. But when we look at what happened in this since the last ice age, there has been a rebirth, right, of people. People survived a cataclysmic event, and their lineage, as they rebuilt society or regrew humans, didn't know the past. Graham Hancock calls it a species with amnesia. It's not that we have amnesia. That's a good way to put it because it gets you to understand what he means by it. It just means you get so many generations in without schooling and knowledge and a way to read it, it's not remembered anymore. So you have to rebuild everything from nothing again. And I feel like the North American continent kind of became the new world and a place for people to go to get away from. Because what was happening, you know the story. You should know the story with the Pilgrims and everything else. They wanted to get away from being oppressed by the church. But they were still religious. They had their very strong beliefs too. But they wanted to practice their beliefs freely. And that's the main reason why they left, at least one of them. And then they got here. When they got to Roanoke, man, there were problems. There's a great book I got here somewhere. It's up there. I've mentioned before. Let me grab it really quick. Don't go anywhere. This is a hard book to read because it's just so much. Our western border. This is 100 years ago. This is from 1876. I've shown you this before, but it's just the script is so tiny in this thing. But it's fantastic. Find that book. It's wild. It was just a culture clash. You know, the Indians didn't have, at the time, in Virginia there, they didn't have the same concept of property and all that. So they would just take something they wanted. The guys from Europe are sitting there like, no, I need that. And boom, kill the guy. And then that's just how things started rolling in the wrong direction. Culture clash. No way to communicate. Different value system. All those things. Not understanding. And then jumping to killing each other. As simple as that. But the people that were here already, all these Indian tribes all over this continent, it's not like they were, living in harmony. They had already been killing themselves, enslaving one another and everything else. Matter of fact, when Whitey came along with our technology, I say ours, like I'm Whitey. But you know what I'm saying. When they came over, some tribes aligned with them and tried to get them to be their partners, to help them wipe out their enemies, their own enemies here. It's such a more complicated real story. But the bottom line is that people came here to create a new world of freedom, which eventually happened. A lot of bad stuff happened along the way. A lot of people were wiped out on both sides. That's a whole other thing we can talk about and try to understand it better, but that's just the way it was at that time. And now we're here, okay? It was all done, I think, in a way to have us one place where we could have this experiment and have freedom. And that's why we're not a democracy. That's why we're a constitutional republic, all of it. But they've been... And you can go, this is more of the communist socialist thing, which I think is part of the people running the show. I think that's the system that they would prefer because then it's easier for them to rule over everybody. But people keep rising up and fighting against being oppressed. It's historically, the Pilgrims leaving England, the French Revolution, every war we've ever had, for the most part, except for the more recent ones, which are kind of more about just having war so big companies can make money and the industrial military complex and all that. But back before that, it was people finally getting fed up and said, I've had enough of this bullshit, and boom. I think one of the things that religion does to keep that from happening to a certain extent, like taking out the people running the show here, is they like go forth and procreate, have kids. If you have kids and you have a family and all that, you don't want to fight. You don't want to leave your family. You don't want to die because you got to take care of these people, your loved ones. Like that's a system. It's like, hey, let's get them into this mindset, then we'll be able to control them easier. If you got a family to take care of, if we make things so hard, you got to work 2 jobs and do all these things. You're so busy on this treadmill trying to support this lifestyle and this family and everything. You don't have the time to pay attention to all this stuff or put in the time to decide to take them out. Their biggest threat are people like me. I got nothing to lose. I'm not afraid of dying. I don't have any kids I know about. If I die, nobody's gonna give a shit. You know what I mean? It won't matter. It won't matter. And more importantly, nothing's holding me. That what keeps me from being some sort of martyr. So if I don't want to do it, I'm old enough now. I don't really care. I'm not going to be around much longer anyhow. While I'm here, the last few years of my life, I want to try and enjoy myself. Since my 50th birthday, the last 7 years of my life has been the best time of my life. It's been awesome. So, but I'm just saying that's what it would take to have the balls to go after these people. So they have this whole system that they've created to keep us under control. And they've been infiltrating our political system for quite some time now. And there's a famous guy, I can't think of his name, this Russian guy who was like with the KGB. You could see interviews with him, I think, from the 70s, where he talks about the infiltration in our education system and the college system with professors and everything. And you see it. You see it on these campuses with these when we say far left, we're talking commies. That's what they are. That's what they are. Socialism is communism light, right? That's what they're pushing. It doesn't work. The reason it doesn't work is there's no equals. There's never going to be an equal thing because there's no such thing as equal effort. Not everyone puts the same effort into things. It always falls apart. It always fails for a reason. You can't blanketly put all these things out there that everybody has to abide by because we're not all the same. The way our brains are. Some of us are smarter than others. Some of us are quicker. Some of us are more hardworking. Some of us are more driven. That's why one system just doesn't work for everybody. And so my thing here, if I can get any kind of point across to you, is this. Understanding that this is all happening, how do you heal yourself? How do you have a healthy mental outlook on things? Well, the way to do it is to just not participate as much as possible. If you can do that. It's harder if you're in this system, man. The banking system, the government knowing who you are, where you live, houses, the kids, the cars, the whole thing. If you got yourself on that treadmill, man, that's a hard place to be. But if you've worked it out where you make enough money to cover all that, it's not so bad. It's not so bad. Or, you can live your life trying to be as free as possible, hustling, being an artist, that sort of thing. That's not an easy thing to do. That might be one of the hardest ways to live. I know because I'm doing it. It's not an easy way to live. You never know. It's month to month. And the only way that you can continue to live that life is if you're an honest person, you're good at what you do, you carry through with things that you like. If you notice, I eventually do everything I say I'm going to do. It just might not be as quick as some of you wish it was. Like the computer. Finally got the new computer. Really interesting the way it's working, by the way. It's pretty cool. I have not yet gone to AdSense to get the money with everything from YouTube, but that will happen. I know. You're like, what? Why haven't you done that yet? Because I got distracted with a bunch of other stuff. But it'll happen. Just like finally going to the VA. The ball's rolling with that. Whether or not anything will come of it, don't know. Trying to live this life this way and trying to get all these things done, you can understand it's just hard for me to get everything done like that. Because I also need to constantly, every day, that's just how I am. Some of you are better at this than I am. I have to decompress every day. I have to not do things purposefully for my own mental health. If I'm constantly running around, boom, 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 I just get so wore out, I make myself sick. So there's a pace to this life. Everybody's got to find their pace, right? You're running a race, you got to find your own personal pace. Don't let anybody take you off of that. There's a harmony between you and the planet, your energy, all the energy with the people around you. You got to find people to keep in your life that are on the same frequency that you are. And if you can do that, you're going to be a happier person. You're going to produce more for yourself in your own life. The only reason I'm talking about this is because I want to help you feel comfortable talking about it with your friends and family. Open dialogue. planting the seed. If I'm comfortable talking about it, maybe you'll be comfortable talking about it. Two people start talking, they talk to a few people. Next thing you know, there's 20 people talking. Next thing you know, there's 2,000 people talking. Next thing you know, there's 100,000 people talking. Next thing you know, 4 million people are doing it. Next thing you know, you understand what I'm saying? And we are right now, because of these, and I'm telling you, people like Joe Rogan podcasts, people talking openly, listening to this knowledge that's out there. This Terrence Howard guy, I'm telling you, you got to watch that interview with him and Joe Rogan. Watch the Bill Carson one. The reason the Bill Carson interview with Andrew Schulz is so good is because it's not your typical interview thing. It's three comedians joking. First of all, people are insulted. When you watch it and you read the comments, like people that are fans of Bill Carson, they when you read their comments, they're really pissed because like, they're not taking him seriously. All these jokes. This guy's a smart guy. It's a waste of his time. It was not a waste of his time. That was probably the best podcast ever because you see him not taking himself that seriously. He cracks his own jokes. They make jokes. He laughs. The best part about him is he stays. He doesn't let you, like me. I lose my train of thought all the time. He doesn't lose his train of thought. He can stay focused. You could take him off where he was talking about, make him laugh, a couple jokes here and there, boom, goes right back to what he was saying because it's that important to him. Because we have to help wake each other up to this. And I think that's the reason why it was such a good interview and why they got so much out of him. I'm looking forward to him going on Rogan. I think that'll be pretty good too. So we're in this time right now. Right now. There's an awakening happen, and it's because of the internet. So you want to crap on the internet, you want to crap on social media, fine. There's a lot of negative stuff out there. But the internet is no different than anything else. You get out of it what you put into it. If you want to watch a bunch of crap and have your mind warped, that's on you, man. That's on you. There's plenty of good on there, too. So I'm just saying, this information's been out there for a long time, but you were on the... I had that term just popped in my brain and it jumped out again. But the fringe, right? So before, if you were into the ancient astronaut theory and you read books like Communion or whatever, you were a fringe character unless you got in with those same types of people. And a lot of those people can be kind of kooky. I mean, just going to go off on a tangent here. When I was young and I would see something, like somebody talk about UFOs, they'd seem kind of crazy. Years later, if somebody talked about Bigfoot or something, you'd think they seem manic and crazy when they're telling the story. Like, and this, and I saw, right? Well, then it happened to me. I had that Sasquatch experience, 3 feet from that thing. So I know the real. So when I first discussed it, when I recalled it, because I blocked it out of my memory, which was so traumatic. Years later, when I was sitting here, it all came flooding back to me because I was watching one of these shows like, holy crap, that's what the heck had to be that. When that first happened, and I was talking to people, but I talked to producers about this. I really believe I know how to prove that without a shadow of doubt, but they keep going around it, which is interesting to me. But the point is, I understood that energy then. I understood it. When you're trying to convince, like, it's not about convincing. It's just relaying the story that you went through. In the back of your mind as you're saying it, you know how crazy it is. I'm doing it right now in my eyes. I know I am. Like, and I saw this thing. But I look crazy, and I'm picturing it in my mind. I'm reliving it in my brain, and I'm seeing it in my mind as I'm talking to you. So the look in my face and on my eyes is what I had when I was seeing it. And it makes me look crazy. And that's off-putting. Same thing with the UFO people. They're reliving it as they're telling it to you. So there's a bit of emotion in their brain coming through their eyes. The eyes are the gateway to the soul. So when somebody's telling you a story and they're reliving it, they're looking you right in the eyes, and it seems like you see this weird emotion that you can't really understand because they're just telling you a story, you might not realize that they're reliving it. And that's why they look a little manic or crazy. And that's what the problem is a bit with this kind of communication. Keeping in mind, most of us are going through life talking to people who aren't telling us the truth anyhow, or not really getting to the root of problems. I can't tell you how many relationships I had that fell apart because the woman I was dating just wasn't being honest about things. And you could see it. So I don't know. It's probably been close to an hour. That's where I'm going to leave it. I was going to do something fun today too. I had this idea. I keep finding stuff, things you don't see anymore. I was going through some paperwork the other day, and I got this AT&T answering system 5840 remote commands. You guys, we don't have to do this anymore. Remember when you had an answering machine? And I've got, this was like an old book. These are the keys you had to push to like listen to your messages and erase your messages. These are all the instructions, you know. This was at a time when we didn't have cell phones, man. So you'd have your answering machine, you'd have a beeper. I got a beeper in here. Hold on. Totally going off on a tangent. Can I get this fast enough? Here, look at my ass. Be entertained by my ass probably isn't as sexy as it used to be, being an old man now. Oh yeah, look at this. Here we are. There's paint on it from when I was painting somebody's house. It's a freaking. I should open this up, see if there's a battery in it, because that wouldn't be good. It's a beeper, man. It's a beeper. Remember this? So you'd get a beep. Somebody called you, and then you can call them back. And then, like, maybe they'd leave you, well, I guess, how did that work? I guess we would just be in this habit, I guess, of calling my answer machine from somebody else's phone or a payphone. Remember payphones? They should still have some payphones out there. I think it's just a safety issue. But payphones, you'd call your answer machine at home and use these keys to listen to your messages, delete messages, everything. What a kooky thing, man. None of this exists anymore. Funny. I'm just blown away because I keep everything. That's why I'm living in a world of crap here. My friend Corinne makes the joke all the time. More stuff to collect dust. I got a flip phone in here, man. I got everything. It's funny to me. It's just interesting. I'm fascinated by the whole procedure here, the whole life experience of what you live through, the technologies, but trying to figure out and understand the human condition and why we're in this situation. I'm fascinated by it. It's also really the best time to be alive. You might think things are bad, and things are kind of crazy right now, especially here with the economy, but it is a lot worse in a lot of other places. But overall, even with all these people we don't know about crossing the border and crime rate and horrible things happening, it's still better than it was 100 years ago, 200 years ago, earlier. The world was a much more dangerous place. It's actually getting safer. That's the crazy thing. Right now, the crime rate's up, of course, here in the States because all the nonsense going on and the fact that they're just letting criminals out of jail. It is weird. I don't know how you can justify allowing criminals out of jail with the recidivism, is that the word? Recidivism rate? Most of them end up going back in jail. But before they go back to jail, they burglarize things, they assault people, they murder people, they manslaughter stuff with drunk driving, all the horrible things they do when they should have never been let out of prison in the first place. So crazy, man. Everything's just nuts. It does seem like these people that are being put in the positions, they don't have the brain power to have the positions that they have. And this thing where they're trying to base everything on the color of your skin is really a problem. Affirmative action, this idea that like, oh, we need more people of color in these positions. No. It's fine if somebody of color can have that position because they deserve it and they earned it because of their test scores and everything else. But if they're not the best person for the job based on their test scores and their intelligence level, then they shouldn't have that job. They shouldn't be getting the job because they aren't white. That doesn't make any sense. You got a bunch of people right now. I'm not trying to disparage anybody based on color, race, or anything like that. I just talked about Terrence Howard and Bill Carson. In case you don't know, they're two black guys. Well, Terrence Howard's half black, which I'm always blown away by because most that I see, anyhow, don't know enough of them. I just see them in the celebrity world. But most people that are half black always identify with the black side of things, which I find that interesting. I find that interesting. But whatever. I think it's partially that victim thing. Like, I get to be a victim if I identify with that side of me. I see it. It's a shitty fucking way to be. We got to get past that. But I'm just saying, if you got the best scores and you've got the intelligence level and you're applying for that gig, you should get that gig over somebody that just happens to be darker skinned. You shouldn't be getting a job because of the color of your skin. It's just ridiculous, retarded, and fucking stupid. And it's aggravating. I said it. I don't think I'm wrong. Don't care about being right. But I think most of you would agree. Other than, the only people who don't agree with that are the race hustlers, the race baiters, the people using race to divide us and create problems. I don't hate anybody based on what they look like. It's fucking stupid. Stupid. It's freaking stupid. It's nonsense. Let's just all say that out loud. Let's just be honest about it, and let's get past it. All right. I've had quite a few black girlfriends. I don't have a problem with it. Don't have a problem with it. Like, Hispanic people are funny too to me, because I have this funny thing about because the culture for me is funny, because I can't stand mariachi music. It just goes through my head like a friggin' nail. But that's for that. We'll talk about that in my next The One That Got Away video, or at least one of those that'll come up. I'm sure that'll come up. Anyhow, I think I've talked to you guys enough. Wow, huh? I gotta watch this one again just to hear what I said. Yeah, so the point of it all is just being comfortable enough, being comfortable enough to say what I think, trying to put together what I'm seeing from the attacks on our former president, who hopefully will be the next president, because I think he's probably the only guy who can straighten us out. It ain't going to be easy. It ain't going to be easy if he gets in there again, because the same people, are less of the same people now, will be attacking him, because a lot of them have woken up and they know what the truth is. Even Bill Maher, a lot of people have woken up quite a bit. So we won't have as many attacks now, but it's still going to be harder for him. So being able to talk about that, but also being able to talk about, but hopefully turn you on to Bill Carson, turn you on to Terrence Howard, watch the Joe Rogan stuff. But listen to what they're saying about power. The Terrence Howard stuff is so out there and up there where we need to be. He's figured out so much of this stuff. It's real. It's the real thing. The Bill Carson thing is the true history. Understanding how that system worked that created us. This is the double helix here spinning around, the DNA and everything. Understanding these people that came here, created us, the systems they put into place, the people left behind then to rule, who are still ruling now with that same stupid mindset. But us being sentient beings, being able to, hey, understand free will and everything, we can choose not to participate in it. But we have to collectively get together and put our minds together and work towards it. And the only way to do that is to do what I'm doing right now, which, again, to reiterate, because I think I said it about 20 minutes ago, is to openly discuss this stuff and not be afraid to do so. And bring this up with your friends and family and turn them on to this stuff and watch this stuff and read the books. Wake up. And then collectively, we can all become a better species. And maybe we can get ourselves out of this mess. Maybe there's benevolent beings up there watching this, going, okay, well, they're getting it, and maybe they're going to help us out a little bit here and help us rise up and get rid of these jerks that got the yoke around our necks. I'll be a warrior for that. I'll leave you with that. You guys have a great night. I hope you enjoyed this Sunday chat. We'll try to lighten things up as the week progresses. Have a good night. Thanks for being here. I so appreciate you guys. Honestly, the last couple videos I did, I just thought I was kind of like half-assing it. But for me, the numbers aren't bad. They're not, my income has been going down. It's been interesting, but the subscriptions have been going up. So there's something weird going on. But that happens. There's an ebb and flow to things. I don't know. I'm not going to worry about it. we're going to get more entertaining. I got to do more stuff. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not letting you go yet. There will be more van stuff coming. I have to do it. I have not made the time to go anywhere in the van. There's a couple things that bother me about the van. I adjusted my suspension. I want to bring it in for another, at least a look at my alignment. Just feels a little weird because I lowered the front quite a bit because my rear end lowered after I put that new bumper and everything, that new weight on the back. There'll be more weight because we still have to put the tow hitch back on, and we're going to kind of French that into the bumper. So it's a long story. I don't want to get into all that right now. I still have that little leak in the front. There's a couple of things mechanically I need to do, but I took the money I would have used for that to buy the new computer because that was important. And another company reached out to me. It's, I can't think of it, Barango or something. Refrigerator. So you guys might remember I bought a refrigerator for the van, and then Iceco sent me a power generator and a fridge, but the one I picked from them was too small. Much smaller than one I already had. This new company is bigger than both of them, but should still fit underneath the bed. And it's a dual zone, and I'm excited about it. And they're going to send me a 200-watt foldable solar panel. And I already have one that I think is like 180, 160, 200 in that range. So now I'll have two. That'll help charge things faster, and I'm going to owe them videos. So you'll see my awesome, 30-minute commercials, 40-minute commercials coming up for that. But they'll be good. So I'll get that, and I'll do an unboxing, and then I'll be forced then to get out in the van someplace so I can kind of test it out, and that'll be fun. So that's coming. And I'm more than willing to do that for other companies if it's something I can actually use. I turned down somebody earlier today. They wanted to send me some tech wallet thing that like tells you where you are. Like you can't lose your wallet because it's got like a chip in it. Now you're carrying it. I already got my phone. The whole world knows where the hell I am. I don't need another piece of technology on my body. I don't want to do that. Leather wallets is what I'll be making. So I said, no, don't want it. Not a tech guy like that. Thanks anyhow. So, but I get those now all the time. Usually at least once a week, a couple times a month, at least 2-3 times a month. It seems like somebody's offering me something, but most of it's garbage, not interested. So, yeah. Okay. I think we're done now. I'm done with you. For now. I'll be back, I promise. Again, have a great night. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I tried to sign off 10 minutes ago. Typical Mike Z fashion. Be good to one another. Be the best version of yourself. Let's try to help each other out. Let's uplift this whole friggin' thing, man. Start with yourself. Start with the people close to you. You're going to build confidence that way. You'll get to the point where when you meet perfect strangers, you won't be afraid of the topic. And that's how things are going to... It's going to spread. We're all going to collectively wake ourselves up. You can wake yourself up. But the true thing that we need to be doing for each other is waking everybody up. It's not about being right or wrong. It's just about coming into this, getting to the same frequency level so that we all just accept what the reality is here. That's it. No sides. Just the truth. I'll catch you guys in the next one.